you can see this, you got a little square. It's like we're back in kindergarten almost.
Right,
squares,
exactly.
And we have circles.
Kind of curlicue.
And this one is 18 inches long.
And due to Baltimore Heritage and the Maryland State Art Council grant, we were able to address all of its issues now.
I am very excited to get into the nitty-gritty with Christine on what exactly is going on here.
We're working on these limestone monumental sculptures, and when you're working with limestone, it is a natural stone and it looks massive and monumental, but it's actually something you have to be very gentle with, particularly when you're dealing with a sedimentary stone in an urban environment. Limestone is a calcium carbonate, and acid dissolves that. So when you have acid rain, when you have pollutants, it literally dissolves the stone. We're here today to do restoration work on it, which means we're getting rid of this previously applied caulk that was put in, which trapped water and which didn't allow the stone to breathe through the mortar joints, which is always necessary.
If you look at this stone up close, it's really like you can almost see the grains. I would call them grains of sand, and that's probably not right, but grains of something. How over 100 years, so this is 1927, so almost 100 years,
100.
it still has got a lot of detail. Did some of the detail wear away already? Has that happened?
You can see it definitely that these details were probably much crisper 100 years ago. It still maintains so much of its detail, and that's another reason for it to be cleaned, because anything that sits on the surface is just going to actively deteriorate the carving.
And you had said that the horse itself is one block of stone. Is that right?
It appears that way because if you're looking at the mortar joints, there's a mortar joint at the neck, and then all the rest of it is just a big block of stone, which is magnificent.
That's unreal. So in here, is it sitting? So you have this, I don't even know how many tons that would be. That's got to be a ton of tons.
Several tons.
Sitting on, is it just right on top of this base, or is there something in between? It looks like there's rubble in there.
Right. Usually when you're putting together a monumental sculpture, you do piece it together with a setting mortar inside. But you can also see, actually, where you see right here, this is a metal crimp. This is a clad stone, so this is probably, it's in a solid piece. It's probably another maybe 5 inches, and so this piece is cladding the surface, and this you can see is a piece of iron that's like a staple that's holding this on right here.
And then is there a big block in the middle? What's holding the horse up?
It could be masonry, it could be brick, it could be larger ashlar stones, more not carved but rougher, just something that creates a solid core.
Awesome. So what are you doing? You got these little squares, and if you can see this, you got a little square. It's like we're back in kindergarten almost.
Right,
these squares,
exactly.
And we have circles.
So what these are mortar samples. They're sometimes called cookies, so that when we put the new mortar in, we match a color that's appropriate, not only in the strength of the mortar, but the appearance. These are the patch repairs. Probably can't tell, but these are 3 different colors. And so we chose one of these to use, and then this is another mortar to use in the joints, which you can see is also almost imperceptibly different, but they are different. You don't want your mortar joints to be the first thing you see when you walk up. You want them to disappear and also be the strength that's appropriate to the stone.
You pick the winner somehow, the one that's most appropriate, and you do that just by eyeballing it?
So first you clean the stone, and then just visually you come out and look at it in the shade and look at it in the sun, and just visually match to see because these have been formulated to the right strength, so it's just the appearance we're matching here, which is really phenomenal in this. And we keep going back to how this is one piece of stone, because in typical sculpture you're going to have pieces, mortar joints all through it. That's somewhat visually disruptive when you're viewing the sculpture. But in this, you don't have that at all.
And you said the bad part about the caulk that was done sometime 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it trapped water in there.
Yeah.
So this is designed not to trap water.
Right, because the mortar is a limestone-based mortar. It's basically compatible with the surrounding stone. So it's sealing the joint between it, but it also, because stone is so absorbent and a mortar joint is so absorbent, they absorb at the same rate, and so you don't get this differential of water retention. And also, when you have a mortar joint, it actually seeps into the neighboring stone to make a tighter joint, so you don't get water also in it from the sides of it. Some areas that could be attributed to the retaining moisture, because we are seeing some spalls around the joint, and which is kind of what you see right there in the mortar joint, that these pieces have been that's popped off, not from the work we're doing, but from over the years. Over here, yeah, you can see a lot of times they use slate for shims.
Slate?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So some of this is slate, but some of this is like an old mortar.
So here, wait, where are this? Oh, over here. Like here.
So here you can see one of the great things about limestone is because it's a sedimentary stone, you get some of the fossil record and evidence of fossils in it, and that's what we're following here, and all these kind of curlicues.
I mean, this one is 18 inches long?
Who knows? It could be even longer. They cut the stone. So I always find that that's a really stunning feature when you're using natural stone.
Yeah, that's tremendous. I mean, this one you can kind of see a flower right there. I don't know. So was this here? I mean, the fossils were always here, but you kind of couldn't see them.
Again, when we cleaned it, we really were able to see all the detail in this, because it was so dark, and because, again, we're right next to a bus stop. So much pollutants from buses idling made this stone incredibly dirty.
So it all looked like this. It all was, oh my
This is kind of a before and after.
So how did you go from this to this?
We use steam and hot water, and also especially formalized stone cleaner.
And do you take a brush?
Absolutely, yeah. You just clean it like your
okay. Like your kitchen counter or something.
Your kitchen counter, your car.
This one is holding. That's the
seal of the city of Baltimore.
Seal, and you can see the outline of Battle Monument.
Right, it's there, but I mean, if you can tell just from the location of the plaque on the sculpture and where the water runoff is like that's very susceptible for water runoff, and you can almost even see in the stone that there's indentions of kind of how it weathers, literally. But there's, it's still legible.
So when you look at them restored, what are you going to smile most about? What's the?
Well, as you can see, just cleaning them is just a remarkable difference already. Just getting out the inappropriate caulk material is a huge difference already. It just took away so much from the nature of the stone. So when you put in a compatible mortar and it just doesn't obscure reading of the whole sculpture, it's a real pleasure to see that work.
The work you're doing now is kind of undoing some not so good work that was done maybe 30 or 40 years ago. How 30 or 40 years from now, when the next people come back, how are they going to know what you did, or what record are you leaving to help them out?
Well, obviously we document all of our treatments, but what we use, and as it's a conservation project, is we use the materials that are appropriate for the original construction and not using any contemporary materials that weren't used at that time. The mortars we're using are lime-based, so they are appropriate to the stone and also the time period. And so our work should be imperceptible. It should be part of the record of the sculpture, but it shouldn't in any way adversely affected. This is a significant monument in a very visible location, and it had reached a point in its being almost 100 years old, and its last maintenance was who knows when. It was time to really address it so that it didn't deteriorate anymore. And due to Baltimore Heritage and the Maryland State Art Council grant, we were able to address all of its issues now.